on his chest. You see? Dave Lindorff is an award-winning investigative reporter. He's been working as a journalist for 34 years. He is a graduate of Columbia University Graduate School of Journalism, a two-time Fulbright Scholar, and winner of the Most Censored Story Prize from Project Censored. Most recently, he co-authored with Barbara Olshansky a book called The Case for Impeachment: Legal Arguments for Removing President George W. Bush from Office. Okay, so I knew these two would be really potent, you know. Let's kind of get back over here in a more narrow universe here. I hate to do it after that wonderful, but we're trying to stay real-world political this week, you know. Okay. So since you wrote the book you literally wrote the book on impeachment, my first question is,
it's out there if anybody wants to
right. How do we, you know, impeachment is off the table, right? You know, we're bored with that line. But the public, I heard today, I don't know how true it is, but MSNBC supposedly reported the last couple of days, that 89%, I had heard 55 for Cheney and 45% for Bush, but they said 89% of the people want to impeach Bush and Cheney.
Yeah.
But that's like, it's like,
Well, you got a problem with that?
yeah, but no. The political establishment got a problem. And I say John Conyers wrote the book, literally wrote a book like you did, detailing why Bush needs to be impeached, but he will not put forth articles of impeachment. So how do we get past the the resistance of the political class and the corporate media to getting the impeachment to start happening?
Well, let me just say that I'm in an awkward position as a Marxist. I'm in the awkward position as a Marxist and a radical of being upstaged by two Marxists over here who put me in the position of conciliatory bourgeois. You know.
Right.
But the point is, I disagree with Maya about one thing, which is that impeachment is not a diversion of the Democrats. The Democrats are opposing impeachment. Impeachment is a mass movement. It's being pushed on Democrats from the grassroots.
Right.
It's not Democrats that are pushing for impeachment. I think that's really important. And I think that the way I view impeachment, I don't see impeachment as changing the structure of America. And I agree with everything you said in your analysis of where we are in America. On the other hand, I'd also have to say that living in the suburbs of Philadelphia, I don't think that if your argument was made to any of my neighbors that they would swallow any of it. They would not accept it. They're so blinded by what's happened with the media that they cannot see what you're saying, even though you're absolutely right. So the problem that we confront is how do you get the masses of Americans who are, you know, working class, middle class, to see these truths? And I see impeachment as an educating device. What it does is it lays bare a lot of the crimes of the ruling class. And for example, this is maybe a small thing, but it's an important thing. We have had a national security state since World War II, the end of World War II, and that national security state has grown consistently every single year since then, except for immediately after the impeachment of Richard Nixon. When those hearings happened, it was the only time that the national security state has been rolled back. Didn't get rolled back for long, didn't get rolled back much, it did get rolled back. It got rolled back because COINTELPRO was exposed, laws were passed after the church hearings, which followed the impeachment hearings. People saw in live hearings on national television the crimes of the Nixon administration. Some of them were blocked out, like the plans for martial law were stopped. But enough was shown that people said, this is no good, this has to stop. And that included the aspects of what the role of the Johnson and Nixon administrations were in, with the Pentagon Papers. All of this came together. It was of a piece. And my feeling is that if the mass movement for impeachment can succeed in forcing the Democrats to introduce impeachment hearings. It doesn't really matter whether Bush gets impeached or Cheney gets impeached. What happens is if you get to the point of the hearings generate live C-SPAN and even network coverage because it's great entertainment. If you remember the Nixon hearings and also the Clinton hearings, everyone was watching. Best ratings on TV, and you see those crimes laid out. You see the bit players called in under oath. You see them testifying truthfully sometimes because they're afraid of being charged with perjury. And the crimes get laid out in public. Everybody sees it, and you realize your government is a bunch of bastards and crooks, which is a great education, you know. And it doesn't change the world, and it doesn't change the class relations, but it does educate people, and it opens the door to to the organizing that really needs to be done.
How do we get to that? I think you're right there. It's what we can in the window of action we might have there, but even that, when we're having trouble getting to that point. So how do we get from where we are now for this mass support of it, but this stoppage by the political class? How do we get past that?
Well, I think that you have to look at what happened with the other two impeachments. They didn't happen right away. It took a lot of pressure, and I think that things have been building. For a while, you couldn't even see the word impeachment in the newspaper. Right. Now you're starting to see it. So I think there is some momentum. There are efforts that are succeeding now. It is a slow build of now. There's 20 co-sponsors to the Cheney impeachment bill. If things get worse in Iraq, which they will, if there's an invasion of Iran, it's not clear that an attack on Iran that sends oil to $7 a gallon is going to create the kind of jingoistic response that the invasion of Iraq had. So I think that I wouldn't say we're in a revolutionary moment, but I think that we're in a moment where people are fed up. And so we have a historically unpopular president. And I don't think any president in the history of polling has been as low as this president. And I'll share an anecdote too. I went down to San Antonio, Texas. I wore this shirt just for the hell of it because I wanted to see what would happen. And I got out of the airport in San Antonio. It's a military town. There were a bunch of GIs walking around in desert fatigues. And I can't tell you how many times I saw these guys open up into big grins and give me thumbs up in their desert fatigues. That says something to me. And not only that, but when I was flying back, I got on the plane with the same shirt. It started to smell bad. I sat down next to these two guys. We took off, and the flight attendant came by to ask for drinks, and I said I'd like a bottle of red wine, and she gave me the bottle, and I flipped it $5, and she said, with that shirt you don't have to pay. And I got a round of this was flying from San Antonio to Atlanta. Not a blue state, right? I got a round of applause from all the people sitting around me.
That's right.
We're talking about a very popular sentiment out there, and it's not a revolutionary sentiment, but it's an anti-establishment sentiment, and it can go somewhere. And I think to toss that off as a diversion and as a bourgeois waste of time is a mistake. This is something that can be used and developed. And that would be my argument.
Right. I want to ask you very specifically, as you've really studied this thing. I'm very concerned. What happened with Nixon, Agnew leaves office as Vice President disgrace.
That wasn't an accident.
Of course not. Nixon appoints Ford. Then Nixon resigns, and Ford becomes president. So we didn't get to elect a new president. No other country would do that. Very few other countries do it. So I'm very nervous. It seems to me important that we get Bush and Cheney together, and literally pull the beach together and try together in order to make sure that neither one of those, and we can't get rid of it.
That's really effective.